Hello, Abnormal Investigations. I'm dropping another video today. I hope y'all enjoy this one. And Hunter, if you're listening, I want you to know that I love you and I miss you every day, and I can't wait to see you. Alright, guys, let's jump into this one. What I'm about to tell you still sends chills to me, to my core this very day. I'm a soldier in the United States Army, and I'm from Eustis, Maine. I've had a few creepy and just eerie encounters from an unknown creature. It started back in 2014 when I was a freshman in high school. It was a cold October night. Me and my older brother, Richie, had just left the local haunted hayride and campground near our house. We were walking back at 9 p.m. at night, and mind you, we live on the top of a ridge about a mile and a half from where we were at the moment. After walking for a little while, we reached our road. It was hard to miss. It sat next to a chapel and two graveyards. The road itself was tar and turned into dirt at the top of the ridge. There were no lights on this road except the bright moonlight. We crossed the road and began our long trek up the ridge. Personally, I enjoyed nature. It's very comforting for me listening to the birds and the squirrels and the music of wildlife. But that night was different. We were about halfway up the hill when everything just went dead quiet. A large chill ran up my spine, and the hair on my arms and neck stood up. Richie, on the other hand, he wasn't really bothered by it. I don't know if it was bravery or stupidity. I kept walking until I heard a large branch in the surrounding woods snap. I can still hear it to this day. When I heard it, I jumped a little bit, but I couldn't see anything. There was just all the consuming void of darkness, looking back at me as if it was going to swallow me up. As my brother and I pressed on, I couldn't help but notice that it sounded like something was keeping pace with us in the woods. I didn't dare stop. I knew Richie wasn't gonna. He didn't really care about me, him being the older brother. When we got to the dirt portion, I couldn't hear anything anymore. Whatever it was gone. My brother and I finally made it home. My next encounter didn't happen until 3 years later, around late December in 2017. Me, Richie, and our friend Johnny had just finished a fire department meeting. It's around 10:45 at night, and we decided to drive down to the lake where we were joking around to have fun, and they were smoking cigarettes. Then we started making noises, intending them to be Bigfoot mating calls just to have fun. But then, out of nowhere, something just came crashing through the woods toward us. Johnny threw me in the back seat of the truck, and my brother got in the driver's seat, and we peeled out of there as fast as we could without it crashing the truck. Thought at one point we may actually crash the truck. And then my final encounter didn't happen until mid-2018 during deer season. Every time I talk about this one, I still tear up. I had just left my house in high noon. I'm armed with a 30-30 lever-action rifle and a knife on my hip. I walked up behind my neighbor's house and then got on my ATV and I went down the trail. Around this time, it's usually dead quiet because the woods are just full of hunters, so my guard was down. I was tracking a pack of deer. I was close behind because the prints were still fresh in the mud. I followed them up behind my neighbor's hunting cabin. Eventually, I came up to a big holler. And I caught sight of the pack. There was no wind, no noise, nothing at all. I had gotten a good vantage point behind a tall birch to look at the deer. Then all of them froze and looked up in the direction where I just came from, and they took off like something had them. I could tell they were scared. I looked where they were looking before, but it was too thick for me to be able to see anything. I was about to continue tracking. That's when I heard was a memory that I will never forget. I heard this terrible scream. It wasn't human, but it was big, and it was nothing I've ever heard in my life. It sounded at least 70 meters away. I was shook. I tried to get out of there as quiet and as quick as I could. Not 30 seconds later, I heard the scream again, but it was much closer, too close for my comfort. So I said screw it, and I took off fast as I could. There was a dirt road about 50 meters away that led back to my house. I got to it, and I didn't stop until I got to my house. I didn't hear it behind me, giving chase or anything. I don't know. I think it just wanted me out of there. After that, I never went to that spot again. I spoke of the encounter to my mother, and she said I shouldn't have went there. I spoke to a Native American that lives here, and she said that it was probably a skinwalker. The next night, while I was laying in my bed, I heard my mother outside yell for me. She told me to bring the trash. I went into the kitchen and I took the trash. I bagged it all up, carried it outside, put it in the trash cans, and I wondered why my mom just kept standing in the middle of the yard not helping me. She wasn't talking to me, she was just standing there, so I figured maybe she was praying or maybe looking at the stars or the moon, so I didn't bother her. I walked into the house, grabbed the last bag of trash, went back outside, put it into the dumpsters. She was still standing there. And as I was walking back to the house, I heard her voice say, "You're not afraid of me?" And I said, "Why would I be afraid of you?" And it laughed, this weird laugh. I walked into the house shaking my head thinking, what is she doing? Is she trying to scare me? But whenever I got into the house, Mom come walking out of the bathroom. That's when the chills really hit me. What was standing in our yard? Why did it talk to me? Why did it ask me if I was afraid of it? That night I went to bed and I told my mom what had happened, and she thought it was maybe just some of the neighbors. And that's when it happened. I looked at my bedroom window, and there from the outside, looking in, was my grandpa that had passed away 3 years ago. As plain as day. No, it wasn't a ghost-looking person. It wasn't something you could see through, or a monster, or glowing eyes, or anything that people talk about. It was Grandpa. He was looking in the window at me, and he smiled, just like he always had. The teeth were the same, the face was the same, I mean, everything, to the mole on the side of his cheek. A moment, I wasn't afraid. I felt like it was Grandpa. And I waved, and when I waved, it took its 2 fingers and placed them on the window, and it tapped them. And that's when I thought, what is Grandpa doing? But Grandpa's dead, and my mind couldn't comprehend what I was seeing, but I knew that he was dead, but I was seeing him. What was going on? He ducked down below the window. And then as he raised up and looked inside, it was my grandma that had passed. Perfect resemblance. And she started laughing as hard as she could. She opened her mouth, and her mouth was larger than it should have been. It covered almost her whole face. Nothing but teeth. And as she done that, the skin started wrinkling, kind of like one of those dogs. I can't remember what they're called, a Shar-Pei or something. And then it looked at me. It was a gray-looking thing. It didn't have any resemblance to anything that it just was. It looked almost like a creature without a resemblance to anything. It was just a gray-looking creature, almost like Kermit the Frog, but it was gray, like, it's hard to explain. And then, and I know you may not believe this, but this is honest to God what happened. It turned into a hoot owl, sitting on the ledge of my window. Started pecking the glass, and I screamed, and I ran out of my bedroom. That was the last I ever saw this creature, and I hope to God that I never see it again. I have prayed and blessed my house. Every window, every door, every closet, every crack, anywhere that it could come in, even the fireplace. I have no idea what this is. Does anyone out there know? I don't have any idea, guys, what this is. Sounds like a skinwalker, possibly. I have never personally dealt with one, but hopefully somebody in the chat will be able to help you identify what this is. That is scary, and I don't know what I would do if I looked and seen a loved one as plain as you say you've seen them. But hopefully somebody in the chat has dealt with something like this and will be able to help you. Thank you for sending your story in. Thank you everybody for listening and for watching. And until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner, and don't be talking to stuff outside your window that you know cannot be what it's presenting itself. Don't give it place, guys. Get rid of it and rebuke it in Jesus' name. We'll talk to y'all on the next one. Thanks for watching.